If you've studied Austrian economics for more than 30 seconds, you know that inflation is always an increase in the money supply. It's a monetary event. And we've printed more money over the last 4 years than in the history of the country preceding it. In combination with interest rates at or near zero, created massive distortions.
The US government has a knack for printing money and causing problems for other countries. As a result, countries are realizing the importance of reclaiming economic sovereignty and reducing their reliance on the US dollar.
Another subject that's getting some attention this week is what I'm now told is de-dollarization. That is the question about whether the U.S.'s reserve currency is at least losing market share. There's a report on the Bloomberg that actually last year it lost market share at 10 times the rate that was the average over the last 20 years.
And you touched on this idea that creating a weaker dollar, which leads to the collapse of the system, may be an intentional effort from within the U.S. to engineer a reset leading to a CBDC or central bank digital currency.
I mean, could you think of a better pathway than by first weaponizing the dollar, not just sanctioning Russian assets, but confiscating them and using them to supposedly rebuild the Ukraine, and then telling Saudi Arabia, hey, thanks, but we're going to go green, so we really, we're not going to be as inclined to buy as much oil from you forever, because we're moving away from this. You couldn't draw it up any better. And rather than falling on the sword and being blamed for destroying the American way of life through mismanagement, better yet, you find a villain, and it was Putin's inflation and OPEC and Xi Jinping and this new alliance of countries that turned their back on the U.S., and they did it. When I started thinking about that and looking into it, and I came across who the number one economic advisor is for the United States government, I almost fell off my chair. His name is Jared Bernstein, and he wrote a report in 2014, I believe, an op-ed that was picked up in the New York Times called Dethrone King Dollar.
And in it, he stated that the government needs to drop its commitment to maintaining the dollar's reserve currency status.
The other gal that I talk about, the number two economic advisor, is Lael Brainerd, who's a modern monetary theorist who wants a central bank digital currency. She's ran point with the government and the Fed on FedNow.
So what is this FedNow system, where you can send money instantly from one person to another, at least anywhere in the United States, and it can happen in seconds instead of hours or days? The question is this the beginning of total overreaching control by the federal government into our personal lives? Well, let's be honest. The federal government definitely has some insight into our credit cards, our transactions, our histories, our banking records. All that stuff is really very closely networked to the federal government. Obviously, a CBDC is quite different because programmatically your money can just be shut off.
And what did the BIS say? Every country needs to have one operational by 2025. 95% of the GDP in this country, or the countries that make it up, have a CBDC in development. It is coming.
Just because they say it's not a CBDC, well, they know better now, because the term CBDC has officially been done and dusted. It's a toxic term, and if they do enact some form of a CBDC, you better believe that they're not going to call it one.
And so, look, you have one advisor wanting to get rid of the banks and go CBDC, and one wanting to get rid of the world reserve status. So is it coincidental? Sure, I guess it could be. Are they really that stupid? Sure, I guess they could be. Or is there a modicum of a chance that some or a lot of this is designed in a very nefarious way?
We live in an age where two visions of the world are colliding. On the one hand, there is the vision of freedom. In this vision, we have the autonomy to shape our own life and to live in accordance with our own goals. Where the vision of freedom reigns, the rule of law is not an arbitrary expression of state power, but is shaped around the ideal that we may live as we wish, so long as we do not aggress against the person or property of another. The vision of freedom is clashing with what the American economist Thomas Sowell has termed the vision of the anointed. In this vision, the global population is to be divided into two classes, the rulers and the ruled, so that the anointed class can attempt to actualize their idea of a brave new world.
This country seems to do its best when our back's against the wall.
An organic movement, composed of men and women who are bound together by the idea of freedom, is what is needed to counteract the forward march of the vision of the anointed. For only power can thwart power, and the vision of the anointed is backed by immense institutional and financial power. But the vision of freedom can be backed by an even greater power, the power of individuals possessed by a vocation and united in pursuit of a shared cause.
Hello and good day, everyone. Welcome to Incubator Weekly. I'm here today with my always here co-host, Ryan. Good day, Ryan.
Howdy, everyone.
And today, as our guest, we have, I want to make sure I get this right. So Tim, you withdrew your incubator strategist proposal this last cycle, but of course, as you have shared in past quarterly updates, you have a reserve budget with which you are working, and that is being applied to the project we're talking about today. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. This was one of the two priorities that the reserve one of the three priorities that the reserve has gone towards. Two projects, this one and then the Dash Challenge one, which we talked about several weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago now at this point, and then some ongoing Dashmate assistance work.
Got it. Thanks for that update. So before we jump into the project of which Tim referenced, which is the Decentralized Dynamic Application Infrastructure, I did want to make a little comment on today's newsreel because so the part of the newsreel where I don't remember which guy said something like somebody has a future vision of two classes of people in the world, the class that does this and the class that does that. That I found to be quite ironic that I think a lot of people associate that sort of dystopian worldview, with only with the fiat. That's the fiat nightmarish future, and crypto in any form, in all its forms, is here to save us from that dystopia. And the ironic part is that the most popular figure, the most popular developer in one of the top cryptos by market cap, gave an interview.
Oh, come on, name names here. You're being very just
No,
kidding.
okay, maybe some people in the comments guess, and how about I tell you if you're right? So in this video, which I saw on YouTube, I would say 5 years ago, and I don't even know if it's still on YouTube. I don't even know if I could find it. It was not a very highly watched video. But this individual said, I see a future in which only the people who are basically really good at programming blockchains need to work, need to have jobs. And everyone else can be freed from the need to work or have jobs.
I'm going to guess. Oh, go ahead. You finish your thought.
I remembered that creeped me out so much. Even now, I have like creepy goosebumps on my arms just from how creepy I think that statement is. Just that somehow like 99.5% of humanity is unnecessary, and like that wouldn't lead to something unspeakably nightmarish.
It's such an interesting perspective. I mean, on two hands, you have the one perspective that, oh, this technology is the solution for all of humanity's ills. And then the other perspective that, and only those that know how to build on this technology are the ones with valuable things to offer the rest of humanity.
Yeah, they're the saviors. Was this Vitalik and Ethereum that you're talking about, or was this?
It was. You guessed it.
Oh, I didn't even have to go with my second guess. Yeah. My second guess was going to be Charles Hoskinson from Cardano. Those two both seem like they could say such a thing. But yeah, that's just that's not a world I want to live in. I see a future where blockchains enable people to leverage their existing skills and their existing occupations even more. in a more free manner, but certainly not doing away with them. Yeah.
Turning them into Soylent is basically what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Soylent Green, I guess is what it's called.
I've heard of, there's a movie called Soylent Green. I've heard of it, but I haven't actually watched it. My wife brings it up every now and then.
Oh yeah, watch it. It's fun.
Okay.
In a bad way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Well, on that note, I don't know why on that note, but let us now jump into the decentralized dynamic application infrastructure. Tim, will you give us a high-level overview of what that is?
Yeah. So actually, it is, the point of it is to create a more or less easy, and I put easy in quotes because there's different levels of easy, but an easy way to utilize platform for building your dApps. And the easy part is that it centralizes, maybe somewhat ironically, it centralizes the command structure for like the code command structure for uploading to IPFS, for being able to write to platform the location and the metadata about what has been uploaded to IPFS, and then being able to reference the dash, the platform document in whatever you're displaying to the user, whether you're displaying like blog content or whether you've got a full blown user game interface that you've gone ahead and built. And it can be used as simply as, hey, I want to store photos in the cloud, and the cloud is IPFS, and then your interface with that and knowing what the locations are, instead of having, if you've ever uploaded to IPFS, it is a really long hash that you wind up with, which is very difficult to work with. And sure, you could use minimizers, Bitly, for example, but then you've undone all of the benefit of having it decentralized. And
the really long hash part, I think, is relevant because I think a lot of people have already started doing such things with embedding that hash into the op return fields of a transaction, in like a Bitcoin transaction where you're putting it on chain. Do you know right offhand if those hashes fit? I think that the limit is 80 bytes in a Bitcoin op return. Do you know if it's longer than that or how they're dealing with that? They're probably
no. I don't know if it's longer than that, and so I also don't know if it is longer than that. I don't know, and I don't know if it's dealt with yet or if that's on the roadmap. That's not something that we have talked about specifically.
Yeah, and regardless, just having structured data that you can name fields, that is a definite bonus of Dash platform. So I'm assuming that this will allow you to not only upload the hash, but also some metadata about the hash.
Yeah. So right now it's a set group of metadata, but the future state will be that you can then do any definition that you need to for your own purposes or for anybody else's reference purposes. You can customize that and what gets put into the document. But for easy purposes, it's at the moment it's simplified. So it's like the name of it and a brief description of it and some categorization tags if you want to add those.
Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking right away, like my wife is a photographer on the side. And I know through just all the history and conversations that Dash platform is not suited to uploading actual images, but IPFS is more or less designed for that. So this is a good application, and this infrastructure I'm sure will help with applications like that, where the developer has a use case where platform is not intended to serve that use case, and so they can work together with Dash platform with IPFS to store both the metadata and the data. Because I don't think that IPFS was designed specifically to store the data part of it. I think it's more designed for larger data. and like image data and things like that. But I'm not sure that it's designed to store structured metadata. So these two complement each other, I think, in a good way.
Yeah, and
what else can you say about it then?
Yeah, that's part of it. Is it does give that mechanism. So, like, to Amanda, what you were talking about, you don't even know if that YouTube video exists anymore. Well, one of the benefits of the immutability of the blockchain is, and one of the benefits that we see from IPFS is, like, you can't just some authority figure can't just go through and tell you to pull the video down
because it's not stored at a location. The whole idea of IPFS is you're storing an image in the sense of you're storing a hash of the content. Yep. And that content is stored on lots of different places. So it's not like there's like URLs are, just like the name says, they're location-based resource locators, where you find the resource that you're looking for based on its location. But IPFS, you're finding the content based on the content itself, which can be hosted in lots of different places. So that does seem to solve that problem. Tim, the developer of this, I know that he has a lot of experience with IPFS and whatnot. Is he? I think that we talked about a little bit before. He was not able to join the show today. But how far along is he on this project? And do you think that he's able to finish this within the budget that you have? Because as I was looking, I did payments last time. Your budget's pretty much.
My budget is pretty much kaput. Yeah, it's spoken for. Part of one of the spoken for pieces is the wrapping up of this phase. So where we are right now, the code base is there. It's all on GitHub. You can load the package that he's built, and it creates a small series of uploader windows, and then it's got a small interface. And then there is a quick start guide.
Okay.
Yes. And I should have given you that is the quick start guide link right there. And so that gives you the location for everything that you need to know. The next step for this was that his long-term vision is that this is a browser extension. So you can just click on the extension in your browser, go to your computer, go to your Explorer or your Finder window, grab the files that you want to load up and load them up. And it does the rest. You can create a wallet, a Dash wallet. If you don't have one yet, you can use a Dash wallet that you already have. And then it will take care of loading it up to IPFS, confirming that, grabbing it, sending the information to platform, and then building that document and then giving you the reference to platform that you need. And then you can then reference those in your HTML or in your JavaScript, or you could even, to the point, you could even almost use this as a CMS of sorts. You could remotely load your HTML or your JavaScript into whatever dApp it is that you've built at your little URL, so you can have something that's really lightweight on your own server that then pulls down the information from Dash platform, pulls down the locations for everything that you need to know. And if you script it properly, then you can asynchronously pull down all your images and audio and text and your markup and your functional JavaScript and build the site or your app on the fly and dynamically. And so that's the name behind it being dynamic and decentralized, because we're very familiar with how to build interfaces and how to, especially web interfaces, dynamically. But the decentralized part is what this helps to solve. And so it combines those two and makes it more accessible for more traditional web developers, where you don't have to you still need some familiarity with platform, but you don't need to know how to do it all yourself. The package does many of the mechanics, and in long term should do all the mechanics for you, so that someone like your wife can just say, hey, I'm going to create a little site here, and I'm going to make it possible for these clients of mine to view their photos for so long. And then she could even write in the little contract, like, okay, these photos can be accessible with this ID for 6 weeks. And after 6 weeks, they're just not accessible with that ID anymore, or they're always accessible. or they're accessible
accessible
3
for-
or 4 or 10 times. And then after the 10th time, you can't access it anymore.
Yeah, nice. And you said CMS. I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with that, content management system. That's how a lot of websites are built these days, where you have a front end application that just contacts a so-called CMS, content management system, that holds all the data on the back end. And so you're saying this could be used as a CMS, where basically, you could create that's the simple way. Like if you're a developer and you don't want to spin up your own back-end server and database and all this kind of stuff, you outsource that currently to a whole number of, there are so many Web 2 companies that are doing this CMS as a service, so that you can just build a front-end application back, especially when SPA's single-page applications were all the rage, and they still are very, very useful. That's how you would do it. But you're saying the twist here is that you can have that CMS, but it's a decentralized CMS.
Yeah, you can do that. And then also a lot of my not Dash world is wrapped up in the Adobe ecosystem. And one of Adobe's big things now is the digital asset manager, so the DAM. And this is essentially a decentralized digital asset manager. You have all these assets that have been loaded up. And so they're referenced on all the IPFS nodes. So you don't have to worry about someone coming through and taking them down and deciding that this is inappropriate for whatever purposes. And then you have the permanent reference to the locations on IPFS on the Dash blockchain, so it can never get lost.
Interesting.
There's always going to be a way to recover the location of that file.
Well, this sounds great. Now, just remind me, because I did ask, and I'm not sure if I was even paying attention to the answer if you gave it, but how far along? You said that he has a functioning site.
So the code base is fully functional.
Yeah.
It's command line at the moment. So it hasn't solved everything. It's still command line. You still need to be familiar with cloning a GitHub repo and then loading and then I don't even know it.
Yeah, the link
installing
itself
npm and starting npm, and it is written in that, but it's a single package now. So instead of having, when it first started, there was a video package and an audio package and a text package. And now those are combined. So you only have the one package. And then there's individual uploaders still, but as long as you're familiar with that, and I have gone through the pains of doing one of those just as part of the QA process and to familiarize myself with it. And so even I was able to figure out how to load it up, how to see and utilize the platform reference. I don't even know what the platform document, how to know and utilize the platform document, and then use that just to do a little really quick hello world. Since then, things have changed, so I can't show it to you because
this might be an interesting thing for our other developer, Anthony, who is a Web 2 connoisseur and just very good with Anthony Campolo. Maybe he could take that and do a demo of what this is and see how it functions. So maybe there's
a task on the card to do exactly that, to go through, especially to go through the how-to doc that Israel created for us, and to create a small just hello world something, and with a couple of different assets. So it's not just one text, but you have a couple of different things just to go through it more than once and look for, does it fall down on any of these other places, or how can the instructions be made more clear, especially more clear to someone who's not as technically smart and as technically well-versed as Israel is. That's one of the difficulties of what he's built, is that it is, in some ways, it's very elegant, which means if you don't know the bones and the foundation of what it's built on, it can look like it's gibberish.
And one viewer just asked, how does one use IPFS? I'm presuming the question means like, is that a download, or how does one get going with that? Is that a command line thing also?
That's built into the package, fortunately, because I don't know how to use IPFS. I know that my understanding is that you load the file and then it stores that file across the nodes, across the networks. And so
Does it make you a node? Like, do you become an IPFS node
you can
by
choose to be an
interacting?
IPFS node. You don't have to be. And if you are an IPFS node, then I believe that there are rewards off that chain for having a node, and the rewards are based on like how large you make it and then what kind of uptime you have. If it's like me, where you turn off your computer every night, then it's not as much reward as if you're someone who keeps your computer on all
There's a
night long.
blockchain related to IPFS?
Yes.
Oh,
There's a blockchain and there's also a coin. So there's the IPFS, which is the protocol, interplanetary file system. We haven't actually said that name, but that's what.
Oh, that's right. I forgot the planetary bit. That's my favorite part about it, actually, though, is it's interplanetary.
Yeah. So that's just the protocol. But then there are other things that are built on top of it, and that's a neutral protocol. But then the other thing on top of that is Filecoin. So you may have
that's Filecoin.
those are built by the same organization. I believe it's Protocol Labs. Actually, I have a good friend that works for Protocol Labs. So that's the incentivization layer on top of the protocol. So IPFS you can think of as like HTTP as a protocol. As far as I understand, I haven't dug into it, but then there's that the blockchain Filecoin coin as well on top of that. So well, this is, I guess, to me, the big decision that we have to make is whether and how we keep funding this project, because like we said, you're out of funds. You did have some funds, but not a lot to work with. And then you withdrew your proposal in favor of at least having my proposal pass, as well as giving Dash Core Group some more room to request some funds. So there's a big challenge right now, and hopefully we have a solution to this in the future. But yeah, I guess we'll have to make some decisions about whether we how we keep this funded or just leave it as is, and hopefully maybe that's the other option is, there's some code and people can just take that and run with it on their own.
And the next request on this is to put together a small web interface for it, so that it doesn't require cloning a GitHub package and doing everything command line.
Yeah.
But that would be the next. Okay, I've got a bow on it, and it can sit this way. I can sit the way that it is right now. Like I said, the package is functioning. The difficulty comes then if platform changes. So if there are any structural changes of platform that have an impact on the mechanics that are in use now, one of the difficulties with the project has been 2 or 3 steps forward making progress, and then platform will change, and then everything needs to be, or many things then need to be rewritten, research needs to be done again in order to keep it up to date. And part of that is there was an early assumption that the changes to platform wouldn't be as dramatic as that each time, and that was an incorrect assumption. And like that's the risk of doing development on something that's in development.
Yep, exactly. So I know that we will at least have one more change to platform, because we right now on testnet, which is what this developer is building on, that's running platform version 0.24. And that's where there's some JavaScript stuff on the back end still. And the big rewrite from JavaScript to Rust is version 0.25, and that's going to be coming out soon, if not already. I'm not 100% sure if actually testnet might be running platform 0.25 already. I don't actually know that, but probably somebody else does. But if it is running 24, then we'll have one change more to deal with, and hopefully that's it. But who knows? So anything else to say about this project? I don't see any other questions in the comments section. But anything else to say about this other than, the code's out there. We gave a link to it, and you're welcome. People are welcome to use that and try it out.
No, I don't. Other than I have a lot of hopes for it. I think that this is one of those pieces that creates the kind of accessibility that's needed for a platform to hit like a network effect of users using it, so that usage takes off, and we can see some dash performance that we've really been itching to be able to see, as far as users and the quantity of transactions and the use of it as a daily as a daily thing.
Yeah, Balaj just says testnet's not running version 25 yet. So yeah, that confirms what I was thinking, that we'll have.
So then this will still work for you if you go and test it now.
It'll work now, and then when version 25 comes out, it may or may not work depending on if he's using APIs that change. But yeah, I echo your comment there about trying to get some like applications that actually require Dash. I know that just through my work, my research with Web 2 of just what kind of businesses are making money in Web 2, a lot of those are CMSs. And if we could create a very good, very easy, user-friendly, decentralized content management system built using Dash platform for structured data and leveraging IPFS for heavier image and video related data, that has a huge market. So
that sounds
if we
tasty.
could then charge Dash for the use of that, then we've got a very good product. So hopefully,
yeah,
we can continue.
And especially the thought just struck me that, especially as we move more and we're beginning to see real practical functional applications of augmented reality, and that is going to require the ability to access this data on the fly outside of a traditional web interface as well. And it feels like that is a prime opportunity for using the platform documents and IPFS storage.
Grand. Okay, well, as we close out today, we want to be sure to announce that both the dates and the location for the upcoming Dash retreat in Utah have been selected. So the dates are Friday, September 29th through Sunday, October 1st. And the location is the Salt Lake City Public Library. I think it's called the City Library on Google Maps, perhaps. And so more details about the agenda and parking and where we may all go eat lunches together and things like that are currently being discussed. If you want to join the discussion on a newly created server for this purpose, we'll put the link to join that server in the description below. But if you'd rather just wait for those details to be posted and no need to join any discussion, you can have confidence that we will post them in the coming weeks. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. We're going to do it regardless of, I know that it's difficult to get out to Utah for a lot of people that are from out of town, but we'll try to make it worth the time. And we're going to have a good meetup just amongst us, our little Utah crowd, of which we are all part in this conversation, and there's a lot more of us. But yeah, that should be a good little, just one comment on it's called a retreat. I had
envisioned maybe doing something a little bit more like a retreat, like getting up into a cabin and just spending a few days together. But logistically, it just made more sense to have it very accessible from the Salt Lake Airport. And so we decided to do it at the library. And I think that if you are coming from out of town, it should be pretty straightforward how to get there. And it won't be, a huge trip for you to go then beyond that and get into some mountain area, which I would like to do, but not this time. So
maybe in future. And then also for anyone who's interested but won't be able to attend in person, we are actively exploring live streaming, not only at least some of the presentations there. And some people don't want me to call when they're talking a presentation, la, la, la. I'm still calling it that. So we'd like to live stream at least some of the presentations, as well as have a sort of, whether it's via Jitsi or Zoom, like discussion, where if you're interested, we can all hop on a call together and have a discussion. So stay tuned for these kinds of things if you'd like to join us. And on that note, that wraps it up for us today. Let us say farewell, fellas. Yes?
All right. Yeah. Thanks everybody. And we'll talk later and see you in Utah.
Okay.